in the small town of Willow Creek, Ohio, where the air carries the scent of damp leaves and the streets are lined with weathered clapboard houses, a shadow lingers. It's not the kind cast by trees or flickering streetlights, but something colder, deeper, a memory that clings like smoke. People don't talk about it, but those who know, who've seen, carry the weight of the red playroom. It isn't just a place. It's a wound, something hungry that feeds on innocence and leaves permanent scars. Jake Harper, nearly 30, sits alone in his cramped living room, the dim lamp casting stretched shadows. His friends had just left after beers and jokes, but now the silence is heavy. Only Sarah remains, her pale face lit by fear that mirrors Jake's. She knows the red playroom too, not from Willow Creek, but from a school miles away in Dayton. That's when it hits. This isn't just a local legend, it's something older, spreading through towns like a sickness. The story rewinds to 2010. Jake was a skinny fifth grader at Willow Creek Elementary, a tired old school smelling of chalk and Lysol. He had a small crew: Tim, the loudmouth, Stacy, the worrywart, and Thomason, sharp and quiet, always noticing things others missed. They were regular kids, until they found the door. Tim spotted it near the janitor's closet where the hallway ended in a brick wall. The door looked wrong, plain with peeling paint like it didn't belong. "Was this always here?" he asked, voice hushed. Stacy tugged her ponytail. "We should get Mrs. Carter," Tim scoffed. "Don't be a narc. Let's check it out." The door creaked open and the air turned thick and strange. The room was small, maybe 10 feet across, but something felt off. The walls were a harsh, glowing red under flickering lights. The carpet was too soft, almost pulling at their feet. Ceiling tiles were stained with odd, face-like marks. Toys were scattered: a flat soccer ball, a one-eyed doll, a rusted wind-up car. In the corner sat the hood of a yellow floral coat, torn and dirty like it had been abandoned by someone who never left. "I don't like this," Jake said, stomach churning. Thomason nodded, eyes on the pulsing red walls. "It's too still," she whispered. But Tim strutted in, kicking the ball. It hit the wall with a dull thump, like the sound was swallowed. "This is our spot now," he said, trying to sound bold, but his glance at the door betrayed his nerves. Stacy lingered on the threshold, biting her lip. Jake followed Tim, not wanting to look scared. Thomason and Stacy stepped in after them, feet muffled by the strange, sucking carpet. They kept going back, day after day, drawn by Tim's stubborn need to prove he wasn't scared. They'd sit in a circle, pretending it was just a cool hideout. But the red playroom had a way of getting under your skin. The red walls felt closer each time, the lights buzzing like a swarm of angry bees. Jake noticed the toys kept changing. A teddy bear with a ripped seam one day, a cracked plastic truck the next. Once he caught the yellow coat hood twitching, its edges curling like it was alive. But when he blinked, it was just cloth again. Thomason swore she heard whispers, faint and scratchy, like voices trapped in the walls. Stacy just hugged her knees, her eyes glued to the door. Tim laughed it all off, but his jokes sounded forced, his hands shaky. The fear grew, but Tim wouldn't let them quit. "It's just a dumb room," he'd say, tossing around a new toy, a rubber ball with a painted smile that was too big, too wrong. Its tag said, "Buck the Chuckler," and Thomason flinched when she saw it. "That thing's creepy," she said, her voice barely audible. Jake nodded, trying to play it cool, but his skin crawled. Stacy, desperate to be brave, pointed to another toy. A plastic figure of a man in a green hooded raincoat, its face smooth, no eyes, no mouth, just blank. "What's that supposed to be?" she asked, her voice trembling. Tim snatched it up, turning it over like it was no big deal. "Some lame action figure," he said, but his grin slipped, and he held it too tight like it was burning his hand. The bell rang and they bolted, but Tim didn't leave the figure behind. In class, Jake saw it on Tim's desk, its blank face staring. "Why'd you take it?" Jake hissed, annoyed. Tim shrugged, his eyes darting away. "No one's gonna care." But Jake saw the way Tim's fingers curled around it, like he couldn't let go, like it wouldn't let him go. The next day, Tim was different. He showed up pale as a ghost, his usual swagger gone. His hands shook and his eyes kept flicking to the shadows. "You okay?" Thomason asked, frowning. Tim's voice was flat. "Didn't sleep." When Stacy suggested hitting up the red playroom, Tim's face twisted like she'd suggested jumping off a cliff. "That place is stupid," he muttered, but it sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Later, when the girls were out of earshot, Tim grabbed Jake's arm, his grip too tight. "I saw it," he whispered, his voice raw. "The green raincoat guy, in my room. Last night." Jake's heart skipped. "What are you talking about?" he asked, but the lunch bell cut him off, shrill and jarring. Tim shook his head, pulling away like he regretted saying anything. They headed for the cafeteria, but Jake noticed Tim lagging, his steps slow like he was wading through mud. Jake turned to call him, but Tim was gone. The playground was empty, the swings creaking in the breeze, the air so still it felt like the world was holding its breath. Jake sprinted to the red playroom's door, his pulse hammering, but it wasn't there. Just a blank wall, cold and solid under his fists. He pounded on it, screaming Tim's name, but the bricks didn't budge. Willow Creek went into a frenzy. Cops, volunteers, even the local news swarmed the town searching for Tim. His parents, red-eyed and broken, begged for answers on TV, their voices cracking. The police talked about runaways or accidents, but the kids at school whispered darker things. Monsters, ghosts, stuff from horror movies. Jake, Stacy, and Thomason stayed quiet, their memories of the red playroom splintering under the weight of fear and guilt. Jake told himself it was all in his head, that the room was just a weird dream, but deep down he knew. The red playroom had swallowed Tim whole. 2 years later, on the last day of 7th grade, Jake wandered the empty halls of Willow Creek Elementary. The school felt like a tomb, its walls heavy with the ghost of Tim's absence. As he passed the janitor's closet, a low creak stopped him dead. His breath caught as he turned to the corner where the door to the red playroom stood, its wood warped and splintered like it had clawed its way back from hell. His hands shook as he pushed it open. The red playroom was the same. Red walls pulsing like a heartbeat, carpet sinking, lights flickering with a sick, buzzing rhythm. In the middle of the floor were 2 plastic figures, the green raincoat man, its blank face gleaming, and a new one. Tim, his tiny face twisted in a scream, his hands raised like he was fighting something Jake couldn't see. Jake's scream ripped through the silence, raw and desperate, as the carpet tore open with a wet, ripping sound. Long, bony arms shot up from the floor, attached to a thing that wasn't human. The raincoat man, tall and thin, its body bending wrong, its featureless face shining like wet plastic. It tilted its head like it was sizing Jake up, and its fingers lunged fast and cold, aiming for his throat. The air turned thick, the red walls throbbing, the light screaming in Jake's skull. He stumbled back, slamming into the door frame, and threw himself against the door, trapping the thing's arm. The wood groaned, splintering as the creature's fingers curled, clawing at the edge, its strength dragging Jake toward the dark. He thought of Tim, of that tiny, screaming figure, and a sick certainty hit him. He was next. The red playroom wanted him too. The door buckled, the creature's arm inching through when a voice cut through the nightmare like a knife. "Jake!" Mrs. Carter's sharp yell snapped him back. He spun to see her in the hallway, her arms crossed, her face annoyed. The door was gone, the wall just a wall, cold and blank. The figures, the raincoat man, the pulsing red vanished like they'd never been. "What the hell are you doing?" Mrs. Carter asked, her voice sharp. Jake couldn't speak, his chest heaving, his hands shaking like leaves. Years rolled by, but the red playroom stuck to Jake like a bad smell. He moved away, got a job, tried to live normal. But it was always there, a splinter in his mind. He went back to Willow Creek sometimes, poking around the old school, now shuttered and falling apart. He traced the walls by the janitor's closet, looking for that door, but it never showed. Tim's parents still put up flyers, their faces older, sadder, but the town had moved on, like Tim was just a ghost story. That night in Jake's living room, the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. Sarah sat across from him, her hands twisted in her lap, her face pale. She didn't say much, but she didn't have to. When she reached into her pocket, Jake's heart stopped. "This is Jennifer," she whispered, holding up a plastic figure. A girl in a yellow floral coat, its eyes glinting like it could see him. The room seemed to darken, the shadows creeping closer. The red playroom wasn't gone. It was out there waiting, its doors hidden in plain sight, its toys calling to kids who didn't know better. The story doesn't end here. It can't. The red playroom is still out there in Willow Creek, in Dayton, maybe in your town. It's a door you don't notice until it's too late. A red glow that pulls you in, a whisper that promises play but delivers something else. And somewhere right now a kid's hand is on that handle and the cycle's starting again.